They gave that company everything. The company took everything. Then came the invoice. Not the kind you pay with money. The kind you pay with your reputation, your data, your trust, sometimes your entire business. Somewhere right now, an employee is sitting at a desk, smiling, nodding in a meeting, and quietly, calmly deciding exactly how this is going to end. What you're about to hear is not a story about hackers in hoodies. It's not about criminals breaking in from the outside. It's about the people already inside, the ones with the badge, the password, the trust. And by the end of this, you may never look at a quiet employee the same way again. Every company runs on an invisible agreement. Not the one printed on the offer letter, the one that lives underneath it. It says this: give us your time, your loyalty, your best years, and in return we will see you, we will value you, we will not throw you away. Psychology calls this the psychological contract. No signature, no witness, just an unspoken promise both sides believe is real. Most companies never realize they've broken it until it's too late. A round of layoffs delivered over a 5-minute video call. A bonus promised, then quietly canceled. A manager who takes credit for a project someone else stayed up 3 nights to finish. To the company, it's just business. A line item. A decision made in a boardroom that no one in that room will remember by next quarter. But to the employee, something else happens. Something the company never sees coming. The contract breaks. And once it breaks, the relationship doesn't end. It transforms. Have you ever noticed how the most dangerous people in any building are rarely the loud ones? It's never the employee who complains in the group chat, never the one who slams the door on the way out. It's the quiet one, the one who stops asking questions, the one who starts saying yes to everything a little too easily. Silence in a workplace is not always peace. Sometimes it's the sound of someone calculating. This is where it gets darker. Long before any real damage happens, something smaller takes place first, almost invisible, a kind of quiet withdrawal. The employee stops going beyond their job description. They stop offering ideas in meetings. They start logging off exactly at 5, every single day like clockwork. On paper, nothing looks wrong. Productivity reports look normal. HR sees no red flags. But underneath, something has shifted. The employee has stopped seeing themselves as part of the company. They've started seeing themselves as separate from it, a contractor in their own mind, even if their title says otherwise. And separation is the first quiet step toward something far more serious. Because once someone stops feeling like they belong to an organization, the rules that organization relies on start to feel optional. Most people never notice this shift happening, not even in themselves. But this is only the beginning. There is a specific kind of employee every company fears, without knowing they should. Not the disgruntled one, the competent one. The systems administrator who built the company's entire infrastructure, alone, over 6 years. The financial analyst who knows exactly where every number in the spreadsheet actually comes from. The senior developer who is the only person who fully understands because nobody ever bothered to document it. These are the architects, the ones who hold the company together with knowledge no one else has. And when an architect feels disrespected, ignored, or discarded, they don't need to shout. They don't need to fight. They simply understand the structure better than the people trying to control them. In one widely reported case from the logistics industry, an IT employee who suspected he was about to be terminated quietly planted a piece of code, a kind of digital time bomb, set to trigger automatically if his name was ever removed from the payroll system. It activated. Servers across multiple locations went dark in a single moment. Not because of some elite outside attacker, because of someone who had simply been trusted with too much, for too long, with too little appreciation. Have you ever wondered how much of the world quietly runs on the goodwill of people who could, if they chose to, simply stop being good? Here's where it gets darker still. Not every act of corporate revenge is dramatic. Most of it is slow, patient, almost invisible until the damage is already done. Picture an employee in customer service, somewhere in the American Midwest, who feels constantly underpaid and overworked. She doesn't sabotage anything directly. She simply stops trying to fix problems efficiently. She follows the rules exactly, to the letter, nothing more. A customer issue that could be solved in 2 minutes now takes 20, because she follows every single step in the manual, instead of using common sense. This has a name: malicious compliance, doing exactly what you're told in the most damaging way possible while staying completely within the rules. It's nearly impossible to punish. There is no policy against following policy. And it spreads, quietly, desk to desk, department to department, until an entire company is moving in slow motion and no one in leadership can explain why. Psychology suggests this behavior isn't really about laziness at all. In many cases, it's about reclaiming a sense of control in an environment where someone feels they have none. When people cannot control their pay, their hours, or their treatment, they often find the one thing they can still control: their effort. And withholding effort becomes its own quiet form of justice. What if this is happening inside a company you trust right now? Not through theft, not through scandal, just through 1,000 small refusals, hiding in plain sight as ordinary work. But sometimes it goes further than withdrawal. Sometimes it becomes a weapon. Every company has secrets, internal numbers, private messages between executives, strategies meant to stay behind closed doors. And every one of those secrets passes through human hands before it becomes data on a screen. When an employee feels they have been lied to, mistreated, or used as a scapegoat, those secrets stop feeling like company property. They start to feel like leverage. There are well-documented cases across major American industries where employees, often ones being unfairly blamed for failures they didn't cause, quietly gathered internal emails, financial records, and communications. Not to sell them, not for money at all. Simply to be ready, in case the company tried to destroy their name to protect its own. This is the part most executives never plan for. They imagine threats coming from the outside: competitors, hackers, regulators. They rarely imagine the threat sitting 2 cubicles away, holding years of quiet, careful documentation, waiting. Research has shown that people are far more willing to expose wrongdoing, even at great personal risk, when they feel they have nothing left to protect inside the organization. Once loyalty is gone, fear of consequences often goes with it. This is why the most dangerous moment for any company isn't when an employee is angry. It's when an employee becomes calm. Calm means the decision has already been made. Now we reach the part almost no one wants to talk about, the slow bleed. Not a single dramatic act of sabotage. A long, quiet drain that takes months, sometimes years, to fully reveal itself. A purchasing manager who slightly inflates vendor invoices, again and again, in amounts small enough to avoid notice. A warehouse employee who lets inventory quietly disappear, piece by piece, never enough at once to trigger an audit. An accountant who reroutes a fraction of a percent here, a fraction there, because the company wants them a raise they had clearly earned. None of these acts alone would destroy a company. But together, sustained over time, by multiple people who each feel forgotten in their own way, they create something far more dangerous than any single scandal. A slow internal collapse, one that often isn't discovered until the damage has already become permanent. In many of these cases, when finally caught, the individuals responsible don't describe themselves as criminals. They describe themselves as finally being paid what they were owed. Whether that justification is right or wrong is not the point. The point is this: the story they told themselves became real enough to survive years of risk, guilt, and fear of getting caught. That is the quiet power of feeling wronged. It can rewrite a person's entire sense of right and wrong, one small decision at a time. There is one more layer most people never consider: the role of time. Revenge inside a company rarely happens fast because fast acts get caught. Slow acts survive. A person planning something destructive often waits months, sometimes years, not out of mercy but out of patience. They keep showing up, keep smiling in meetings, keep collecting access, knowledge, and trust, all while quietly building the means to use it. This is what makes corporate revenge so different from almost any other kind of conflict. There is no confrontation, no warning shot. The person who will eventually cause the most damage often looks, right up until the very end, like the most reliable person in the building. Have you ever worked beside someone who seemed almost too steady, too unaffected by chaos that frustrated everyone else? Sometimes that steadiness is genuine peace. And sometimes it's the calm of someone who already stopped needing the company's approval a long time ago. And then eventually there is detonation. The final act, the one that makes headlines. A mass resignation, timed perfectly to cripple a critical product launch. A stepping forward publicly, with documents too detailed to be. A senior employee wiping critical files on their very last day, knowing full well what it will cost the company to rebuild. These moments look sudden to the outside world, shocking, unexpected. But they are almost never sudden at all. They are the final page of a story that began long before, in a meeting where someone wasn't listened to, in a promotion that was promised and quietly forgotten, in 1,000 small moments where a human being was treated like a number on a spreadsheet. The company spends years building walls to keep outside threats away. Firewalls, security badges, non-disclosure agreements. And the entire time, it never notices that the greatest threat it will ever face is the one it built itself. Quietly, slowly, one ignored employee at a time. Here is the most disturbing truth in all of this. Companies do not usually get destroyed by enemies. They get destroyed by people they once trusted completely. People who were given keys, passwords, and access because someone, somewhere, believed they would always be loyal. Loyalty, it turns out, was never unconditional. It was a transaction. And every time a company breaks its half of that transaction, it doesn't just lose an employee. It creates a liability, one that can sit silently for years, fully capable of causing catastrophic damage, simply waiting for the right moment. The most unsettling part isn't the sabotage. It isn't the leaked documents or the vanished inventory. It's how ordinary it all is. These aren't villains in the traditional sense. They're husbands, mothers, people who pay rent, raise children, and believed once that hard work would be rewarded. Something in them simply broke, quietly, without anyone in power ever noticing. And by the time the company finally understands what happened, the invoice has already been paid in full. So the next time you walk past someone quietly doing their job, never asking for more, never complaining, never causing trouble, remember this. Calm is not always peace. Sometimes, calm is simply the sound of someone who has already decided exactly how the story ends. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.